Hello, everybody. Welcome. I have a great guest on today. I'm really excited. This is Brian. Brian, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Doing good, Shalom, and hello, Paul.
Okay. Uh, so Brian, I wanted to contact you. I wanted to interview you because I wanted to learn a little about your lifestyle because obviously you're a vegan because you're not only a vegan, you're a vegan warrior. So I want to hear about how you got to be the vegan warrior, but before we hear that, I want to learn a little about your background. Where'd you grow up, and when you grew up, did you eat anything, or when did you become a vegan?
That's a great question. So I'm actually from England, and I'm 52 now. When I was 14 years old, I'll try and keep this short as we can. Okay, so I'm 14 years old. I was kind of a bad boy, and I was sent off from home and to a children's prison. I don't know what they call these places, like a camp for bad boys. I was 14 years old. I had to stay there for 2 weeks. It was horrifying. It was horrible. I remember I forgot to change my sheets one day, and I had to go and ask the guard, "Can I have some clean sheets? I forgot to change them." And he punched me in the stomach. I'm crying my eyes out. It was a horrible place to be. And I remember I was never brought up as into religion, didn't even know God. And I remember going back to my room one night, 14 years old, and I found myself praying to God, just out of the blue by myself. So I think that was my first interaction with God. And then I became a Christian around the age of 18, and not a very good Christian, kind of probably one of the worst, actually. And so I've always been a Christian my whole life. Now, about 6 years ago, um, I made this ethical change. And that was the reason, for the ethical reason. I kind of felt a little guilty that someone should have to die for my taste and pleasure when I'm consuming meat, eggs, dairy. And I decided on that day I'm going to go vegetarian. And going vegetarian, I kind of felt like a weight had been lifted off me. And believe it or not, I was kind of overweight. I lost 10 pounds in weight in just like 2 weeks. It was absolutely amazing. So it's kind of a bonus of when you switch to healthy foods. I mean, cruelty-free foods. It's also healthy for you too. There's a connection here that we need to make. So anyway, I went vegetarian. I knew I was always going to be vegetarian at this point now. And then I watched a documentary called Dominion. I learned the truth about how the animals suffer for like dairy products, eggs, and milk, and how they're actually bad for us. And then at that point, I went vegan, and then
So
I went
go ahead.
sorry,
No, go
and
ahead.
then I went back to the Bible and read the Bible again. And after going vegan, the Bible kind of changes, and some of the scriptures become more alive to me. Like, do you remember the book of Daniel when they were 10 times wiser? Uh, so switching to that lifestyle makes the scriptures come more alive, definitely. And I definitely encourage anyone watching, if you're thinking about this, um, try it, try it out and see. You're going to be 10 times wiser. So, and then the vegan warrior part, I just had an urge in me to speak up for animals, and I became a vegan warrior. So it's kind of something within inside of me that wants to speak up, for animals. But so that's kind of a short version of
Well,
where I'm at
okay.
today.
Tell me about first that transition from when you said you were how old? 18 when you became a Christian?
Yes, it was kind of. I know I prayed when I was suffering when I was a young
When
boy
you
of
were
14,
14, you
but
were praying, but you
yeah.
said you
But
know.
after that, when you're not suffering, you kind of forget, and we only tend to pray and ask for things, when we're in a time of need. So at the age of 18, I remember a pastor came knocking on my door in a really rough neighborhood, and this was in Scotland, in England. And he introduced himself, told me about God and the Bible, and I sat down. He did the little prayer with me, while you're praying, you ask Jesus to come into your life. And from that day on, I started reading the scriptures, and that's where my life kind of developed from there.
Right. So, for many years, you've been reading the scriptures and you were a little unhealthy, a little overweight. What made you decide, was it 6 years ago or 8 years ago, that you were gonna go on a vegetarian diet? What made you decide that?
It was actually nothing to do with my health. Really don't care about my health, and it wasn't the scriptures neither. Well, it could have been the scriptures because the scriptures plant seeds in us, and we don't even know it sometimes. And sometimes these seeds grow, and we can tap back into that empathy and realize that what I'm consuming, I kind of felt a little guilt, a little ashamed of that someone had to die for me. So that was my ethical switch to the vegetarian diet.
Okay, so you went on a vegetarian diet. Now, why do you think it took you so many years to figure that out? Like so you were Christian from 18 all the way
Mhm.
to 47 or whatever, or 45, 44.
Right.
Why do you think it took you, why do you think you missed that message for so long? And then finally, was it one day you wake up and you're reading the scriptures and the thought pops in your head, wow, I'm
Yeah.
gonna stop eating animals. Did that just
I
come into your head one day?
no, I think it's a slow process, and God is always working on our hearts. He sees us every single day of our lives, and I believe He's always trying to plant seeds in us. He's always trying to get us to notice Him, and as we grow with Him, I mean, most vegans that I know always say, "I wish I'd gone vegan, a long, long time ago." But I think it's not about when we go vegan; it's about seeing the truth and waking up, I think.
Yeah, and I think this is like when Yah opens our eyes, because you know I pray for people that don't know our Creator, because or have a relationship with Him, because I didn't, you didn't, but we do now. So it's a slow process, but He's always, like you said, working on us, always working on us. And I think when He feels we're ready for the scales to fall off our eyes, that's when it happens.
I kind of challenge some Christians if, when we talk is put the book down for a moment and we need to be actively listening to each other's feelings and emotions. For example, and Paul, do you think killing an animal, whether we're allowed or not, do you think killing an animal is an act of kindness or cruel?
Yeah, well, I obviously, I believe it's wickedness. Actually, it's beyond cruel. I believe it's wickedness.
Right.
However, we were trained as children to believe house pets were animals that we should love, and farm animals were our food. And nobody thinks how you're killing the animal. We think it's our food.
Right.
Most of the world doesn't think how the animals die, and they don't care how the animals die, and they just think this is my food. And when you start caring about the animals, not only do you stop eating them, but then you start realizing, well, how are all those animals that I ate killed? And I do go to some places sometimes where they raise their own cattle, and they really love their animals, and they still kill them. And I'm like, I don't get past the point of how do you call killing an animal in any way compassionate. There's no such thing. But they say, oh, we kill this, so it doesn't feel
Right.
anything. That doesn't justify killing somebody.
Yes, we were conditioned as children. I mean, we trusted our parents, and their parents trusted their parents, and everyone's been led down this path. And I know as children, if we would have saw the animals being killed in front of us, we would have gone, "Where we would have been
Yeah,
vegan,
exactly.
right back then." So we've been conditioned to be, I call it in a polite way, hypocrites as children. We've been taught to love one animal and turn a blind eye and,
Sure.
and kill and not show any love to
Absolutely.
this animal. And
Absolutely.
we're now, as a non-vegan, we're kind of blinded by our own selfish desires of the flesh. And to come out of this is hard to explain how to do that. But it
Well, a
happens,
part of it too is it's an addiction. It's like a drug addict too. So like
right?
you could tell a drug addict what they're doing is going to kill them. It's going to put them in poverty and it's going to destroy their life. But they're so addicted to what they're taking that from every viewpoint, from a physical standpoint, from a psychological standpoint. There's just like it seems like it's just a black tunnel that's getting deeper and deeper into it, and there's no way out. And they're not willing to go through that detox or something to overcome it. And now it can be done by the power of our wonderful creator. So Brian, so then your eyes were open, so now you're not eating animals, and then I'm sure you did the research and you found out that it wasn't just the animals, but the animal products that came from the animals, the eggs, the milk, cheese. It was just the industry was just as dreadful and harmful. And uh, when it comes to being a vegan, what about most people that are vegans really aren't a vegan through the definition because like like a car, there's animals that use animal products to make the tires in a car. So, like
Right.
really strict vegans, they won't drive in a car with the rubber tires unless they get vegan tires or something. How
Right.
far do you take it in your life at this point?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's understanding the word vegan. We know it's not a diet. People don't go, they miss the point. If you go vegan for health reasons, or if you go vegan for the environment, I kind of miss that connection. It's about causing the least amount of suffering we can to life. And yeah, I go to the highest. We live in a non-vegan world, so we have to get by as best we can. I do have a car that I bought previous before going vegan, and I don't know about the tires, but if I was to buy a new car, yes, I'm researching, and I'm always going to go with the item that's going to cause the least amount of suffering towards animals. There is
Sure.
tires out there that are vegan.
And in your heart, like, how far do you take it? Like, if you saw like a cockroach on your floor in your house, would you do your best to like uh catch it and take it outside? Or is there ever a
Yeah.
situation where you would step on it in your whole life? Do you think that would happen? And if you did step on it, would you feel like terrible for weeks? Or like, where are you with something like that?
Yeah, I have seen cockroaches in the house, and I do catch and release them. Even if there was a little fly buzzing around when we, and and the reason I do this is because we've got to recognize that, and it's in Genesis chapter 1 verse 30, I believe, where God's, is it, yeah, Genesis 1:30, where God breathed the breath of life into animals and us. And it says, I believe it says in there, I'm not going to pull up the scripture, it says, to all the animals that have a life force within them, I give you this for food. So animals are sentient beings, just like you and me. They have the same emotions and feelings. And the one thing I've learned that's most important in life is my life. I wouldn't trade my life for, I wouldn't want someone to step on me, or kill me. And it kind of the golden rule principle comes to my mind there about do unto others how you want to be treated. So the little fly that has a short life, or a cockroach that only has a few months of life, I let them live, and catch and release is a good way to do that. I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't have gone through the things I've gone through. And I think this is God kind of he's separating people like the wheat and the tares. He's separating us, um, like in a flower garden, from the weeds and flowers. And he wants us to be a flower, not a weed. You know.
Exactly, exactly. So, Brian, in your life, besides yourself, how many people in your inner circle or people you hang out with on a regular basis, or if anyone, have the same passion for you? Are you a loner doing this where you're at, or do you have friends and family? Are you a hermit, or do you go out? Are you very public? Or what's your life like?
Yeah. When I went vegan, I'd actually never even heard of the word vegan before. I had none of my family in my past ever. None of them were even vegetarians, vegan, and they kind of find it strange that I would want to show compassion to food, when in fact I'm trying to show compassion to the animals. They're not food. We've been so manipulated to look at an animal and think, "Oh, this is food." No, he or she is not food. But no, yeah, I'm very active in the vegan community now. I have couple of Facebook groups, one called the Vegan Church Service, one called Worldwide Animal Activism, and of course I have my YouTube channel, Brian Animal Activist, and I go to vigils once a month, stand outside a slaughterhouse, and trying to get people to hold a sign, try and get them to think outside the box for themselves of what's going on there. Maybe give a drink to the animals as they go in, and so yeah, that's come very active, and I'm always waiting for that opportunity, like in a grocery store, or at Uber, or at work, having a conversation with someone. There's always going to be a window where I can bring up the topic, of veganism. I'm speaking up for the animal that's in the slaughter truck, and I'm using the golden rule here. If that was me on that truck, I would want you to be speaking up at every opportunity you can. So that's this. It's like God put this curse on me to be righteous, to go out and constantly just throw this out to people and try and get them to stop harming the animals. It's a good curse.
It's a blessing. It's not a curse
It
because
is.
you're his mouthpiece and you're
Yeah, I say
oh,
the word curse because that's what it says in the scriptures.
yeah,
We've come away from being a slave, and now we've been given a new curse of righteousness to go out and be, and disciple.
but yeah. Yeah, Brian. Well, in closing, give us a message what you'd like to get to the people. Tell us what you'd like them to know. Say something to the people now about what you're teaching.
Right. So, I mean, this is my one chance to share the truth. I just ask people watching, be open-minded and willing to listen someone else's uh, the way they perceive and see things, because there's a lot of suffering in the world today with wars. The countries going to war against each other. There's murder. There's killing, and all this bad energy kind of it comes from somewhere. And I think peace begins on your plate. When we pay for and we have an animal killed and they suffer, they live a life of hell. Can you imagine being born in a prison? Your parents killed before you, and then you're sent off to a slaughterhouse to be executed, and you're innocent. You've never done anything wrong. And so all that negative energy transfers to your plate when they're killed, and then we consume that negative energy. And I think this is what is separating us from God, and because He wants your temple to be full of love, kindness, and mercy. And so I encourage anyone be open-minded. And there's a documentary called Dominion that it kind of highlights the real reason God gave us dominion, to be stewards and take care of His creation. So check, you can Google that. It's the Dominion documentary at watchdominion.com. It's free to watch. And make up your own mind. Don't just blindly listen to me. I could be telling you a pack of lies. It's up to you to discern the truth when you're reading the scriptures. And I definitely encourage people to read the parables of Jesus, because that's how he breaks through this blindness to speak to your heart. And I was just drinking some tea, and this was the label on my tea here. And it says on the label, the heart sees deeper than the eye. And so it's very true there. So yeah, open-minded.
Very good.
Golden
Very
rule.
good. All right, everybody. I'm going to put Brian's links below to his YouTube channel and to his Facebook page. Brian, do you have a website? Besides your YouTube and your Facebook, how other can people get in touch with you?
Oh yeah, the YouTube Brian Animal Activist and the Facebook group Vegan Church Service. You can just go there, leave a comment, and I read my comments daily, and be happy to respond to anybody. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you, Brian, for joining us, everybody. I just implore you to consider what we're saying here and just read it, and just regardless of what Brian and I are saying, just turn off your computer for a moment, spend some time for a moment with no distractions, and just ask our Creator if we should stop eating animals and supporting the industry in any way, and let Him speak to you. Let Him speak to you. take a moment to listen. Okay. And thank you, Brian, for being on here. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the Raw Life Health Show.